Welcome to Keep On Pushing TV. I am your host, yes, the one and only Devon Harris, and you know what we do here. The goal hasn't changed. Our goal is to share with you ideas and insights that are going to challenge you and inspire you to keep on pushing and live your absolute best life, because that's what we want for you, man. That's what we want from you. So if you're interested in that, you know you're in the right place. So again, hey, welcome to Keep On Pushing TV. My guest today is the co-founder of Geneva Supply, one of the fastest growing companies recognized by Entrepreneur magazine. A true business explorer and an entrepreneur. This guy doesn't like to be called an entrepreneur though. But in addition to serving as CEO of Geneva Supply, he offers an impressive list of thought leading and brand building innovation for online-based companies, a weekly podcast called Fueling the Tank, featuring top business leaders, and is also the creator of BizTank, a non-for-profit organization and scholarship program designed to elevate high school juniors and seniors as they begin to build career experiences and start their own journey. He is overly passionate about helping brands improve online selling strategies, creating digital marketing strategies that reach online communities. Yeah, and it turns out to be a pretty cool dude as well. So, hey, I am really excited, man, to be able to invite and welcome my friend Jeff Peterson to the show. Jeff, welcome to Keep On Pushing, bro.
I'm going to tell you what, the best part of that entire intro was you saying I was a cool dude. Oh. I mean, that's the best part. Well, next time, I think I'm going to shorten everything up and just say, hey, this is a cool dude.
Jeff Peterson. All right, so let's start again. Hey, guys, welcome to Keep On Pushing. I have a cool dude, Jeff, on the program.
I love it. That's fantastic, my friend.
But, you know, man, I mean, this is a pretty impressive resume. You know, anybody would want a resume like that. But I'm always interested in the journey, Jeff. You know, it's people see successful people at a particular point in their lives, but for me, it's like, well, where did that journey start? So can you take us back a little bit? Tell us about your early days, early beginnings.
You know, and I'm impressed by the fact that, you know, we have that same vision about the journey being the most important part. And, you know, you hear so many people talking about who they are and what they're doing in the now. And it's really about where did they come from and what were the struggles and those successes and those turning points that kind of helped them get there. And I'll tell you what, when a lot of where I came from, I had a good upbringing. I had a great family support system. And, you know, I was, you know, that kid that the parents showed up at every game and, you know, all the sports and supported me and everything like that. And for me, that really helped build that I would say the give a shit of everything that I did, because it wasn't always just about me. And it was one of those things where I realized that other people were elevating me, other people were supporting me, and it gave me that drive to give back to them and give them that kind of confidence in who I was. And I've always carried that with me, you know, from a very, very young age, and the importance of other people feeling that they could count on me, and other people that felt that I was capable of doing things, even if I didn't have all the skill sets, that they could count on me to kind of be there and be part of it. So a lot of that came from the way my parents kind of took me in and brought me into conversations that were very, I would say, very adult conversations. Mm-hmm. You know, my parents didn't leave us home, you know, when they went out to dinner with business people. They took us to those dinners, and they opened us up into those conversations. And I think that's so important for parents and mentors to really involve kids in real life, real situations, real experiences. And that's a lot about how I became who I am, is just that confidence that was built in those experiences that were given, even just in regular everyday conversations, for me to feel like I was comfortable to ask questions to people that were older than me, people that were doing different things than me. And I think that has a lot to do with how I got to be where I am today.
It's really interesting you say that because there's an old saying that children must be seen and not heard. Um, Even as a child, I never agreed with that.
No,
Come to
right.
think-
I mean, because when you're a kid, that is the time when you really want to, you're reaching out and you're trying to find yourself and you're so expressive. And when you've got that, people that are just kind of saying, be quiet, be quiet. You don't know any better. You don't understand. You have nothing to give to this conversation. And that's a society situation. We have to change the way society views, kids and what they're capable of doing. And I know so many people right now are staring at kids with the smartphones and they're like, oh, they don't know how to communicate. Have you asked them questions? Have you started
Yeah,
a conversation with them to find out truly if they can communicate with you? So that's
indeed.
part
But
of it.
beyond that, though, Jeff, it's just you talk about how because of the way your parents raised you, it kind of made you into the person that you are now. It's a level of confidence and self-assuredness that you have when you are. It's not that you're being treated as an adult, but you're being treated as as an whole person, as a whole
Yes.
person, although you're a child.
Yes.
That says, okay, I may not be able to contribute at the level that my parents and the other adults in the room are contributing, but I can still contribute in my own way. And that gives you legs on which to stand on and to build a life on down the road.
Absolutely. And you feel that there's a value, you feel as though there is a value. And whether I was brought up in that situation or, situations that were more challenging, I feel that we have to look at those situations and we have to treat kids and people at any age and realize that they are of value no matter what it is, where they came from, what their upbringing is. It's up to us to give them experiences and opportunity to share who they are as people and what their goals are and what they want to do and what they want to be. And I think it's important.
Yeah, and I know you're living that even today, and we're going to touch on, your work with high schools, juniors and seniors in a minute. But you mentioned that your parents, came to every game. What sports did you play?
So back when I was a kid, I played baseball, football, and basketball. I played the three, what I would say the big sports. I wasn't good enough to be on the bobsled team, so I had to pick
Well,
football,
not that many
basketball, and
people are.
baseball.
Not many people are.
No, I get it. I mean, there isn't not an aspect of my skill set that would ever have been able to do what you did, and that's the truth. So those were the key sports, and I was always, back then. I mean, I'm 52 now, so back then you played the sport of the season. Nowadays, there's so much focus on picking one
Right.
sport and being
Yeah.
really good at it because it gives you different opportunities to excel and to focus. And I'm still not a believer in that. I call me a little bit old school. I think having those different coaching experience, being coached differently, learning different skill sets and different strategies and being motivated in different ways based on the sport. I think that's important. And I think, a lot of people are missing out on those opportunities
Yeah.
and to just go out there and experience those things as well. It's not all about being the best at something. It's about being part of something sometimes as well.
And yeah, you don't have to be the best. I stress this oftentimes. It's not always about being the best, but being your best. And
Right.
that's something that gets lost in this culture with the helicopter parents and the parents who are sports fanatic who are living their lives vicariously through their kids, right? They
Yes.
weren't the
Yes.
star on the team, so they want their kids to be the star on the team.
Yes.
Um, Talk to us about your early career, after college. Where did
So
you go from
So
there?
I grew up in a household. My dad was in the liquor industry. He was the president of 3 liquor distributorships. He was a VP at Jim Beam. So as I was going through my schooling, all of my connections were in the liquor industry. So during summers, I worked in the warehouse, picking orders and setting up displays at retail locations and knowing those people. So I always thought I was going to be in the liquor industry. And it just so happened when I was finished up with school, my dad was a VP at Jim Beam, and I got a phone call from him one day, and he said, "Hey, there's an opportunity in Minnesota for a merchandiser position. It's a great place to start. You'd basically move out there, live out there on your own. What do you think?" And I'm like, "I'm all for it. Let's do it. Let's give it a shot." So I started working for Jim Beam right out of school, and got my Chevy Lumina minivan, picked it up and drove out to Minnesota. And I was a merchandiser, and I was out there for a year and a half on my own, going out there and working with different liquor salespeople throughout the state. And that's kind of where I cut my teeth on figuring out how to do something on my own, but still have responsibilities to a large company, doing it, a very set way that they wanted it to be done, and finding my own personality in doing that, and my own drive. And then I moved back, so I worked for Jim Beam for about 5 years. And then from there, I ended up in being a district sales manager for a liquor distributorship. And then I ended up buying my own sports bar, and I owned a sports bar for 7 years. So I really kind of ran the gauntlet when it came to the liquor industry. So I was very versed in how to be different, how to market differently, and how to understand, the cost of goods and the marketing of that, and every aspect of the business I had kind of lived through. And I had great mentors in that arena to help me be successful. So that's the route I took when I first started.
Yeah. So you ended up buying a sports bar. So you obviously had an entrepreneurial bug. Is that something that you kind of grew up with just because of the exposure at an early age as a kid, or you just, as you're starting out life, going, "Hey, this is a way to go"?
You said earlier in my intro, I don't like being called an entrepreneur. Let me put it this way. I don't call myself an entrepreneur.
Mm-hmm.
I'm fine with somebody else calling me an entrepreneur, because that's flattering, because, I look at that as a creative personality, somebody that's willing to take risk and do something on their own and trying to turn it into something. But I've never looked at myself as an entrepreneur. I always looked at myself as somebody that was trying to succeed in what I was doing, trying to succeed in business, and starting, owning my own sports bar really was just kind of, to me, it was that natural progression of my knowledge and doing something on my own, because I was driven to try to succeed, and the opportunity came my way. So I took it and went with it. And I felt secure in making that decision because of my knowledge and the mentors around me and the support group. So that's why I ended up doing it.
Mm. So now you find yourself in Geneva Supply. You co-founded, working in the kind of online-based businesses. Now, for what, are you in this industry now for 13 years or so?
Yeah. So Geneva Supply has been around for 10 and a half years. Prior to that, myself and my business partner, we were doing business with Amazon for about 3.5 years prior to that. So I've been in the e-commerce world, working, handling manufacturers and brands to Amazon.com for about 14 years. And from that point on, we've grown Geneva Supply into a company that handles brands to all e-commerce channels. There's so many different .coms that are out there. So right now, I think we manage products to about 65 different e-commerce platforms,
Mm-hmm.
and handle third-party logistics, brand management, digital marketing. We've kind of developed into a one-stop shop for a manufacturer that has challenges, have pain points. They don't have the infrastructure to support the fast-paced e-commerce strategy, and that's where we shine, is helping brands find that.
Yeah. So before I want to talk to you a little bit more about that, but tell me how you got the Geneva Supply started. I'm curious.
So,
Wink.
so this goes to back when I owned my my sports bar.
Yeah.
So I sold it. And at that point, I was like, what am I going to be now that I have to grow up? Because being in the liquor industry was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
You run it like a business, but it's entertainment. It's kind of that place that people want to go to. You're always entertaining, always promoting, always marketing. So now I was like out of that, and I had to figure out what I was going to do. So I ended up going and working for a tool distributorship because of a friend that connected me to it. I didn't know anything about tools, didn't know anything about the industry, but I knew how to take care of people. I knew customer service. I knew how to follow up on things. So I got good at it. And I ended up being the sales manager of a tool distributorship, and then ended up going and running a division of that company, which is how we started getting into the e-commerce world. And I hired my current business partner back then. I hired him to run the day-to-day operations for that company. And we grew the business so much to Amazon that we actually found 4 investors and tried to buy that company. And it fell through. It didn't work out. We were literally supposed to close on Tuesday morning at 8 a.m. And that night before, we had a conference call with the people we were buying the company from, with our investors, and they kind of changed the deal on us in the midnight hour, so to speak. And it ended up, we weren't going to close the next day. And we walked into work thinking we were going to own the business the next day. And we walked into work not owning the business, but also getting fired.
So the coup didn't work, huh?
Yeah, no, not so good. So I was unemployed. First time I ever got fired from a job, and unemployed to a high level of unemployed. We thought we were going to own a company, and then nothing.
Yeah.
Weird feeling. But it was very.
So dude, most people go from 0 to hero. You went from hero to 0.
Real fast. I did not see it coming. This was not a strategic, like, oh boy, things aren't going well for me. No, this was like, we're going to own a company the night before at 8 p.m. and by 8 a.m. the next morning, I'm unemployed.
Yeah.
So it was awful, but literally we called the investors and said, hey, we just got fired. And they're like, well, what are you going to do now? And we're like, well, let's start this thing from scratch. We did it once before, we can do it again. And they're like, all right. So one of our investors at the time was a private jet broker, and he had a 10,000 square foot empty airplane hangar. And he says, you guys can use that if you want to. And 7 of the 8 employees from that company literally told us, well, we're going to come with you. So it was very, if you've ever seen the movie Jerry Maguire, where he's like, who's coming with me? And he grabs that goldfish. They basically said, we're coming with you. And it was probably in hindsight, one of the proudest moments in my career is when you have people that want to follow you, and because they believe in you, that you're going to take something from scratch in a 10,000 square foot airplane hangar with no business, and they say, we're coming with you.
Yeah.
That's probably the proudest moment, because they believed in us. And so we took that, and that was 10 and a half years ago. We came up with the name Geneva Supply that night. We went to Best Buy and bought laptops the next day. Sprint and got cell phones. And 10 and a half years later, we have 3 locations. One's 190,000 square feet in Wisconsin. We have a location in Charleston, South Carolina, and a location in Phoenix, Arizona. And we're sitting at about 140 employees now. And things have been pretty good.
Yeah, that's awesome. So, you said a few things there that I think are important to unpack, right? So you go work for this tool supply company and you know nothing about the industry. You can't even tell the difference between a wrench and a hammer.
Well, they both kind of work.
Well, I'm probably putting words in your mouth, but
no, it's pretty close. Pretty close to true. Yeah.
But you said you knew how to manage people, right? You had the soft skills. You could communicate with people, you could manage people. And I think it's an important lesson for any would-be entrepreneur, anyone who wants to start a business. The fact that, hey, you don't have to, I'm not recommending that you jump into an industry and invest your money that you know nothing about, right? You kind of need to do some homework. But we tend to sometimes cause the lack of knowledge of an industry or a company to prevent us from moving. When, while that is important, as I often say, your greatest asset are people. And so your greatest strength, one of them would be your ability to manage people, correct?
It is. And even to this day, I say something that's a little off the wall in the way that I hire employees. I typically, they'll send their resume, right? I don't really look at all the skill sets and all the different things that they did at their job, because I'm going to learn that in the interview process when I'm talking to them. And really, I want to get to know who they are, what their personality is, and the skill set aspect. Of course, they're going to say they know how to do this or know how to do that. But am I really going to know if they can until they actually start working for us? I'm
Yeah.
really not. A lot of people say they can do things that they're just not really good at because they're trying to get the job and they think by putting it on paper that's going to help them. So I want to get to know the people. I hire people. I don't hire resumes, because so much of what we do is going to be about fitting in with the team, who they are as a person, what their drive is, how much they care about what they're doing, and not just care about the paycheck that they're getting,
Mm-hmm.
and the benefits and how much vacation they get. So it's more about that. So when it comes to hiring people, and even I say this to people that are interviewing, that person, when you go into interview for a job, you should be interviewing them as much as they're interviewing you, because where you're going to find your happiness is going to be fitting into a company that you can find something that you can get passionate about and driven about every single day. And that's what's going to elevate you at that company, but it's also going to elevate you into opportunities outside that company.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And I say all the time that people, hire for skill. They hire for, generally speaking, they hire the resume, but they're firing because of the personality.
Right.
And if you hire just based on what the person say he or she can do, and then when they come in personality wise, so it's just not a good fit. And anybody who knows sports, plays sports, knows what I'm talking about. You have one
Yes.
really talented player on the team who just drives a team into the dirt because the chemistry is completely
Correct.
off. That can be the death of a business as well. And you mentioned, of course, that as you were leaving that company, the employees wanted to come with you, which is, I think, a testament again to the fact that you had those good people skills. You treated people well. They felt that, you know what, this guy is going to take care of me, is going to support me, is going to encourage me and help me grow. And if you can invest in people that way, which is, really important, then you're going to have a really successful company.
And that is the key. I think I tell everybody, if you're going to come to work for Geneva Supply, the most important thing that you're going to get is you're going to build your resume, not necessarily because of what it's going to say on the paper, but you're going to get experiences. You're going to be part of a team. You're going to be given responsibilities and accountability to better yourself. And I want my employees, my team members of Geneva Supply, I want everybody to want to hire them away from me. Because that means I've got the best of the best, and everybody wants it. And it's up to me to have them want to stay at Geneva Supply.
Because of what you're doing for
It's,
them.
yeah, I don't want to hold people back from opportunities if they think they should be someplace else. I have no problem with that. I have no problem with people leaving Geneva Supply if that's what they choose, that's best for them, for whatever reason it is. I wish them the best, and I will always be there when they want to call back, and if they have any questions or anything. I think when you're really supporting them, they're going to support you, and that's where the magic's going to happen.
Yeah, and there's some companies, some bosses who take it as a personal affront that someone would want to leave their company. What you said just reminded me of a book I read, and I'm trying to remember the name of the author now. I know I have it on my bookshelf. But, his goal, he states in the book, is to have every one of his employees is to develop them so that in 5 years or so, they're ready to leave.
Right.
And go do something bigger. And if they're not leaving, he's like, why are you still here?
Right.
Kind of thing, because it is about growth. It's about helping people to reach their full potential, not just, for want of a better term, fattening your wallet.
Right. If you're elevating the people on your team, the company is going to elevate, and the opportunities for those employees are going to become real opportunities for them to move up within your organization. It's companies that do the same thing every single day, treat people the same way every single day, and they're like, well, we're sorry, we just don't have a growth opportunity for you. And people leave because they hit the ceiling.
Mm-hmm.
That employee didn't hit the ceiling. The company didn't grow and elevate to a point that they could elevate the employees.
Allow for that employee to grow. So,
Right.
in a way, what we're discussing here is this idea of people over profits.
Yep.
That if you, in a roundabout way, if you take care of the people, the profits come as well, right?
Right. And honestly, I don't really want to be a company that's just profitable if I don't like working with the people. That's not who I am. I mean, there's companies that are all about this, all about the numbers. There's a balance, and I think that we do a very good job of keeping the balance. And it's a hell of a lot more fun. It's a hell of a lot more fun to really
Absolutely.
enjoy
And
going
it
to
ought to
work
be, or
every
you shouldn't be
day.
doing it.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. So, in the e-commerce space, Jeff, I know you provide mentorship, coaching to companies who are trying to get into that space. So, talk to us a little bit about how you do that, how Geneva Supply help people to be successful in that space.
It is a very, very unique world we're living in right now. And with the fast pace of what e-commerce is doing and changing, and the selection and the types of products that are available now to shop online and have delivered to your doorstep is off the charts. You can pretty much get anything you want by buying it online and having it delivered. And manufacturers find a lot of pain points, a lot of challenges in keeping up with the pace of the e-commerce platform, because manufacturers have created all of their efficiencies based on making a product, making it profitably in quantity so that they can put it in a case or on a pallet and ship it that way. Manufacturers become inefficient when they're shipping one item to a customer and having to worry about all of the different challenges that the e-commerce platform is giving them for marketing, branding, the way that their product is packaged, labeled, kitted, all of those things. And what we've developed is a company that says, hey, you're a manufacturer, you do what you do because it makes sense for you to do it that way, and it's efficient and profitable. Here's the e-commerce platform. Where do they fit in as a strategy for you? Do you have channel conflict? Is this a way for you to reach other consumers that you're not currently reaching across the entire country? And let's talk about it. Let's talk about where e-commerce fits. What are you thinking about? What don't you want to do? And come up with that idea and that strategy. And what's nice about Geneva Supply is we can really come up with that, help them develop that. And under that same roof of Geneva Supply, we can help them with their content management, building their content, optimizing their content, actually coming up with a digital marketing strategy, and how their product might be packaged for new product launches, so that they put all this money into a box, and they might have been able to save a bunch of that money, because really when you talk about e-commerce and you're shopping, that page, those images, that is the box to the consumer. Mm-hmm. So they have to start thinking differently. So that's what we do for manufacturers. And with this whole pandemic that we just went through, honestly, where everything was going to be 3 years from now is now going to be 6 to 12 months, because the pandemic forced consumers that weren't shopping for all this variety online to start shopping for everything online. So it's really elevated the importance of how you brand and what platforms you're on.
Right. So how are you guys, I guess, adjusting to this, unexpected increase in demand so quickly?
We've always been built to handle surges in business, because the e-commerce platform goes so fast and it grows so fast. So 40% growth year over year is not uncommon for the brands that we've managed for the last 10 and a half years. So what this really did, it shook the manufacturers up more than it shook us up. Because like the fourth quarter on Amazon, huge surge in business. You get so much business in those 3 months that you've got to have systems in place, warehouse efficiencies in place to be able to handle that. And we've always had to build ourselves into a position to be able to do that. Manufacturers, however, have realized that, wait a second, our brick and mortar stores are closed. How are
Mm-hmm.
we going to reach the consumers? So we've become much more of a resource to them, and to get them to start realizing they've got to get to the table and start having real talks about where e-commerce fits into their strategy.
Indeed, indeed. So Jeff, you talk about fueling the tank,
Yep.
or keeping a full tank. What does that mean?
So fueling the tank is really about self-assessment and understanding what your personal journey is and what is getting you from your point A to point B. And honestly, it can change and it can alter. Your plans can change. Where you thought you were going to be, what you thought you were going to do can change. But the concept of what keeps you driven, what keeps you motivated is still what's most important in your journey. And fueling the tank is all about, where did you come from? Where where did you turn left when you should have turned right? And the importance of self-assessment. I self-assess all the time. Every phone call, every meeting, as soon as it's over, I start thinking, should I have said this? Did I say that? Did I upset somebody when I said this? And really kind of regrouping and re-looking at how I presented myself, or how I made them feel comfortable or not comfortable, and trying to figure it out. And that's really part of the process of realizing how important it is to keep your tank full, or at least know where you're at in fueling yourself.
Mm. So are we talking about energy here in terms of physical energy to keep going, or is it just mental energy in terms of the time you're spending being introspective? As you say,
Yeah, it's a mindset. There's a lot of people that are going to go out there and talk about your diet and the physical of staying healthy is very important. I am not qualified to talk about that. I eat frozen pizza regularly.
Mm.
I have gained weight during COVID-19, and I am not a picture of
Well,
person.
you need to invite me over, man.
Yeah, right. I am a gourmet cook when you can doctor up a frozen pizza. It's one of those things where I know where I fit and I can help people, and I know where I can't. And it's not about putting a diet and a physical regimen together. It's important, and I realize that's a very important part of it. But mine is more of having a personal mindset and your understanding and being how to find your authenticity. And being true to yourself and portraying yourself in a fashion that is accurate of who you are and what you want to be, and where other people fall into that. And that's kind of where it comes for me.
Yeah. So awesome. So let's talk a little bit then about Biz 360 and your
BizTank?
BizTank, I should say. Yeah,
Yeah.
giving back to the kids. What inspired that effort?
So back in the day, before we really got Geneva Supply going, I coached youth sports a lot. Never got paid, always volunteered. Literally for the most part, never coached my own kids. I would volunteer, and I loved coaching kids at like the 8th grade level, the high school level, because I'm not great at teaching a kid how to throw a baseball or kick a football, that type of thing. I'm really good at, once they kind of have the basic skill sets, I'm really good at tweaking and mentoring and getting them to the next stage of success and an opportunity. And that's when I was coaching, I had to give it up when we started Geneva Supply because I didn't have the time. When you're putting all this time into starting a company, you lose the extra time to be able to coach. So I had to give up coaching. But when we got ranked by Entrepreneur Magazine, number 29 out of 360 up and coming companies, all of a sudden I say we got some street cred, that Geneva Supply actually existed because we got recognized. So a local high school actually called us in and said, hey, can you talk to our business class, our entrepreneurship class, about your journey? So we walked in there, started talking to these kids, and all of a sudden they started raising their hands, asking amazing questions, great follow-up questions. And it hit me that now that I'm doing what I'm doing, I can still mentor and coach kids in what they're looking to do, because those kids were excited about business, excited about the journey, and trying to figure out what they wanted to be and what they wanted to do by listening to our story. So it came down to me realizing that the high school curriculum is what it is. It's that broad-based knowledge of them being able to teach the baseline of education, how to learn, and certain key aspects, but it's not experiential. It's not connecting them to the business society and individuals. So that's what BizTank is about. It's about career exploration and having speakers from all over the country, all over the world, talk to the kids, talk about their journey, their successes, their failures, what they thought they were going to be, what they ended up being, and have these kids realize that they don't have to have it all figured out, but feel empowered to start their journey by exploring other careers, other people's journeys, and asking questions.
Really good point, because I think it dovetails nicely into what you're saying earlier in terms of what it meant to have fuel in your tank. And one of the thoughts that came to mind as you were speaking was the fact that, sometimes when we set a goal, we feel compelled to keep at that goal no matter what, not recognizing that you actually have the right to change your mind.
Yes.
No goal is for want of a better term, a life sentence, right?
Correct.
You can change your mind. And I think definitely exposing kids to people who have changed their minds over time, over the course of their lifetimes, and have still found success, I think is an important lesson for them to learn early. Because, not many of us, I would say, are doing the things that we dreamt about doing when we're in high school.
Absolutely. I mean, I when you were younger, when you were a kid, I mean, you weren't thinking about being a bobsledder in the Olympics.
Of course I was.
Look
on the nose.
That's awesome. It's being open to exploration and seeing other things that are out there, and always having your head on a swivel and trying to figure out what you want to be by finding out what you don't want to be. And I've had kids say, well, should I put, the fact that I worked at McDonald's on my resume or on my LinkedIn profile? And I'm like, when you go get a job, and you might look at it like you're just flipping burgers and throwing hamburgers in a bag with fries and handing it to a person, and you might not think that that's an important job and it's just a paycheck to you.
Mm-hmm.
It might be that if you let it be that. But if you go in there and start realizing that you're dealing with customers, you're dealing with other team members of the staff, you've got a manager that you're reporting to, and you can start asking questions about food costs. You can start asking about inventory and rotating inventory and that customer service side. You can get so many experiences that are preparing you for everything.
Skills that you were talking about.
It's just, you have to be in a situation that somebody lets you know how to look at things a little bit different. And that's really what BizTank is, by exposing them to a whole bunch of people that have a whole bunch of different journeys, that have done it a whole bunch of different ways, that there's not a cookie cutter way to success, and that it is okay to fail. And it is okay to get fired. It is okay to quit. It is okay to change directions. And it's okay for you not to know what you want to be when you grow up, because as long as you're looking forward and trying to figure it out and trying to get the most out of every experience you have, you're going to get there.
Yeah. I can't end this conversation, Jeff, without, you brought it up, that dreaded F word, failure.
Yes.
So since you brought it up, talk to us about that. How do you deal with it? I'm guessing that you've failed once or twice. You've been fired at least once. So.
Yeah. I mean, I say to people all the time when they ask me a question, I fail regularly. It's not necessarily like, if you textbook failure ends up being you did something wrong because it was supposed to be done a certain way, or somebody didn't like what you did,
And so you didn't get a job or you didn't move something forward. And that's, people look at that and define it as failure. I personally don't define those as failures. I don't look at getting fired as a failure. I look at what you do when somebody says that you didn't do it this way or that way, and it wasn't the way they wanted it. It's more what you do with it that kind of defines what that moment was. Sure, it could end up being a failure in your life, but if you take that as an opportunity, redirect and keep the essence of where your effort and focus was, and redirect and change that path, well, it wasn't a failure. It was something that you went through. And I think that that's really what's important. We're all going to do things wrong, and we're all going to struggle, and we're all going to have setbacks. But it truly is, and I hate to come off cliche, but it's what you do with those moments in time that are truly going to define who you are.
I couldn't have agreed with you more, because as you aptly say, we are going to have those setbacks, those moments when things didn't quite work out the way we wanted to work out for whatever reason. It's what you do with it, really. It's the lessons that you've learned, to be able to keep your tank full.
Right.
And if I can use another cliche, keep on pushing, as it were.
Absolutely.
So, Jeff, man, it's been great. We could honestly go at this for a while, but in the interest of keeping our audience wanting to come back for more, we're going to hold back some from them. We so appreciate you spending the time with us to share your wisdom and your experiences on Keep On Pushing. Thanks so much.
And I thank you for having me on the show.
Yeah, man, it's all good. Thanks for watching. If you haven't done so yet, make sure you click on that subscribe button and hit that bell. You'll get a notification every time we post a new video. And don't forget, share it with your friends, man. They want to be inspired as well, right? So share it. Don't keep it. And before you go on to the next video, visit my website, www.devonharris.com. Keep on pushing.